What's up, Derek? Welcome to our TED Talk. In 1950, American psychologist Erik Erikson published a theory of social development focused around 8 psychosocial crises of development. These 8 crises all center around a critical point of development in a person's life, starting with his or her infancy and ending at the elderly stage of adulthood.
The first stage of Erikson's theory is called trust versus mistrust. This stage starts at birth and lasts for about a year. During this time, the infant is unsure about the world and looks to the primary caregiver to supply their basic needs such as food, shelter, and clothing. If these needs are met consistently, then a sense of trust will be developed. On the other hand, if a child receives harsh or unreliable treatment, then they will develop a sense of mistrust, which will carry on with them to other relationships. The second stage of development is autonomy versus shame and doubt. This stage occurs between the ages of 1.5 and 3 years. Physical and mobile development begins to occur during this stage, as well as conscious choices. For example, this is when the child begins to walk away from their mother, choose their own clothes, and express feelings of like and dislike. Erikson encourages that this should be when a parent distances their self slightly from the child in order to establish independent development. During this stage, if children are praised for their actions, then they become more confident in their own abilities to survive in the world. However, if children are admonished, then they could begin to develop a sense of inadequacy, which may lead to them being too heavily dependent on their peers.
Initiative versus guilt is the next crisis that children develop. This crisis occurs from age 3 to age 6. During this crisis, Erikson believes that the child learns to imagine, broaden their skills through active play and fantasy, and learns to cooperate with others while also taking initiative to lead as well as to follow. However, the child can become immobilized by guilt, which will occur in the child becoming fearful of certain situations and is restricted both in the development of play and the development of imagination. Also, with this guilt, the child might continue to depend on their parents and/or teachers.
The fourth stage of development, industry versus inferiority, usually occurs when the child enters elementary school. Children at this stage will begin to struggle with their self-esteem, and they will question whether their worth to both themselves and the world at large. In order to achieve a healthy self-esteem, children need to learn how to properly act in an educational and social setting. They need to learn how to focus on their schoolwork and how to treat teachers and students with respect. Upon this, and doing this, they will feel a sense of satisfaction knowing that they are putting their skills to good use.
The fifth stage of development, identity versus role confusion, occurs around the ages of 12 to 19. This stage is usually when they really discover who they are. It is when self-discovery is prominent and when self-discovery begins. Inner identity and exploration occurs. For example, someone who discovers their sexual orientation will most commonly find it during this stage.
The sixth stage of development is intimacy versus isolation. This usually occurs between the ages of 19 to 25 and is generally when intimate relationships and commitments first start to form. This stage in development is about the risk of establishing close relationships with others. All relationships and all relationship types share the same defining qualities of depth and sustainability. This is considered one of the crises of adulthood because an individual can risk putting their trust in someone to form a close relationship, or they can risk feeling isolated from other people.
The next stage of development is generativity versus stagnation. This stage is about caring for and making a contribution to society, so it makes sense that this occurs through most of adulthood. Generativity is feeling the need to make life productive and creative so that it matters to other people. There are many ways that individuals satisfy this need, but the most common way is by raising children.
The eighth and final stage in Erikson's theory is integrity and despair. This stage occurs usually at 50 years old and up. As the most reflective stage at this point in life, it is about the acceptance of the past and the importance of forgiveness to others and to self. If this stage is prosperous, then it is common that the outcome will bring wisdom and knowledge. It is also about the understanding and reflecting on how they left the world and if they left it in a better place than when they came in.